on this Thursday, June 2nd, 2022 at 6:10 PM. And would you do the roll call, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Firestone?
Here.
Commissioner Walker?
Here.
Vice Chair Ittner?
Here.
Commissioner Ruff?
Here.
And Chair Taylor is currently absent.
Okay. And we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all stand, please, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, seeing that we don't have any general public comments, I'm going to move on to the police report.
And Vice Chair, if I may, we do have 3 participants via Zoom. Just like to confirm that they don't have any general
Oh,
comments
great,
as
thank
well.
you, sorry.
And those joining us via Zoom, if you have excuse me for that feedback. Those participating via Zoom, if you have any general public comments, please use the raise hand feature and we'll go ahead and call on you now. And with that, I am seeing one,
Okay.
and that is Kristen Bell. So we will go ahead and allow her to speak. And Ms. Bell, can you confirm you can hear us, please?
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Kristen Bell. I live here in Ojai, and I'm here to express my support and appreciation for all the work you're doing to integrate pickleball into our city's recreational programs and activities. My husband and I are grateful to be able to play at City Hall courts after work and on weekends.
Can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Yes.
We are on our general comments right now. We will get to item 7A, and that's when we're going to be taking pickleball comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's not your
thought we
fault.
do it here. I can do it later.
Can we come back to you?
You bet.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you. We'll get back to you then. Sorry about that.
no worries.
It's very confusing on Zoom. All right, hearing no more public general comments. On item 3, we'll move on to the police report. Item 4.
I have the police report tonight. This is the administrative report for the month of May 2022, starting with our facilities, the skate park. There were 5 calls for service, 1 call with an arrest and citation, and 2 calls unrelated to recreation. Libby Park had 7 calls for service, 7 extra patrols of officers walking through the park, and 1 arrest and citation. 0 calls unrelated to recreation. Sarasota Park had 6 calls for service, 10 extra patrols, and 0 calls related to recreation. The last parks, Clough Vista, Rotary, and Daly Ranch all had 0 calls for service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, thank you for that. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is the public works report.
Okay, perfect. And so we'll go ahead and begin with Clough Vista Park. So over at Clough Vista Park, it looks like there was graffiti removal on May 9th. And then over at Daly Park, it looks like there was a new sign ordered for indicating the dogs on leash requirement. Over at Libby Park, events held at Libby Park in the month of May include the Music Box, which is a concert. In addition to that, there's also an event that was Coffee with the Chief and the City Manager, and that was on May 26th. Art in the Park also took place on May 27th through the 29th, and the Memorial Day concert also took place on May 30th. For the skate park, it looks like there was graffiti found and removed in the restroom, and the toilet paper dispenser was replaced. Over at Rotary Park, it looks like there's a little bit of power washing on the benches at Maricopa Highway along the crosswalk. And at Zero Zodi, it looks like there's pest control for the gophers and work done for the open house event. And that included painting the Boyd Center handrails, part of the game room, pressure washing the gymnasium stairs, picnic areas, and restrooms. Additionally, the signs were cleaned. Overall, there was, as indicated, some graffiti in the skate park and over at Club Vista Park. And with that, that concludes the Public Works report for the month of May.
Thank you. And I will hand the meeting over to our chair, Taylor.
My apologies. I wondered why I had so much free time at home on evening. My daughter graduated today from sixth grade, so the day was
Congratulations.
not the normal day. So again, my apologies to everyone. Okay, and thank you, Louise, for that report. We'll move on to our Public Works report.
We just did that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the police report. Mark that off. Thank you. We'll move on to our consent items. We have the minutes from the May 5th meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Thank you.
Any questions? Discussion? Yep.
Okay.
Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the minutes for our, what was the date of the meeting?
May 5th,
May 5th
2022. Can I get a second?
I second.
Thank you. Louise?
Okay. And Chair Taylor,
Yes?
Vice Chair Ittner,
Yes.
Commissioner Firestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, item 7, presentations, action, and discussion items. We have 7A, Pickleball Ad Hoc Committee update recommendation that the commission receive an update from the Pickleball Ad Hoc Committee, and I believe I have a number of speaker cards as well. Louise, are these in,
They should be in order.
okay?
Are we,
I have-
can I request that we have the report first and then public comment?
Absolutely. Do we have an ad hoc representative that would like to present the report, or Louise, who would like to present?
Firestone, excuse me, I believe Commissioner Firestone will be presenting the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. And not much to report. We have reached out to a number of acoustical consultants, kind of in the greater area, but not quite as far as Los Angeles. And heard back from most, and a couple are interested in submitting bids for the work. And so we'll be communicating with them, and I'm not sure if we'll be looking for others or from other directories of consultants or not, but that's where things stand. We've identified a couple of consulting firms with interest in bidding on the work.
Would you mind just refreshing everyone out there on what the bids would be for and what the project is?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is to, first of all, help us identify kind of a reasonable noise standard specifically for pickleball sound, the sound of the pickleball, which we feel like our city codes don't kind of speak directly to. But that standard, what we'd be looking for is something that kind of has the spirit of the city codes, but is more specific to pickleball. So that'd be the first step. And then assessing the current site, the City Hall site, to determine what the noise levels are relative to this standard. And if there are any mitigation, efforts, that additional sound mitigation activities that could be done to kind of reduce the noise to an acceptable level if it doesn't meet that standard. Similarly, evaluating the Libby Park tennis courts to see if pickleball could be done there with sound mitigation that would satisfy the standard as far as noise at the nearest residences. And then more generally, providing advice on if we are looking for alternate sites for pickleball, kind of appropriate distances and sound mitigation measures for those sites.
Thank you. Do the commissioners, any other commissioners have any questions before I receive the public comments? Okay. We have a number of guest speakers tonight, public speakers. We have Denise Skippy, or Skippy, the nickname.
Why are we clapping before we speak?
Because we support her.
They're my support. They're my support group.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Hi, my name is Denise, but only my mom calls me Denise. On the courts, I am known as Skippy. After I retired from teaching physical education for 35 years, I realized I miss socializing and laughing with my students. So I started playing pickleball 2 years ago. I now socialize and laugh every day on the courts. Pickleball is great exercise and very social, which has been great in my retirement. I am now meeting many of my Ojai neighbors, young and old, making new friends. The pickleball program is one that I urge the city to embrace and facilitate its growth within the city, as it is so enjoyed and beneficial to a large number of our community and people visiting our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we have Sandra Hansen.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for the job that you do providing places for all to gather, learn, and play in our city. I'm Sandra Hansen, and I've lived in the Valley for over 60 years. Recreation and fitness are important to me, as I was the head coach for Ojai Gymnastics, the Arrows, for 10 years in the late 80s, and an elementary school teacher in the Valley for the last 27 years. A year or so ago, I discovered pickleball. Over 3 million people in the country play it, and I so love our sport. Since retiring, I find it's important to get out, exercise, see people, and play. Doesn't matter how old you are. I drop in at our oak-shaded pickleball courts, and I'm always welcomed and have someone to dink with. I often meet with friends and play, and then we walk to town for tea afterwards. I find it heartwarming to see all the different ages and skill levels of people happily playing together. Our courts are absolutely the most well taken care of and beautiful in the Tri-Counties. At no cost to the city, players clean the courts of bird droppings and remove the oak debris every day. Another inclusive aspect of pickleball is it's free. It doesn't cost anything to play here, so it's open and available to all. You must pay to use Soul Park, and there's no shade. For me, and so many others, playing pickleball is so much fun, enlivens our days, reduces depression, is heart healthy, and although physical, you're not prone to injury. This is a boating injury, not a pickleball injury. So please, make sure we have more city courts rather than considering reducing the beautiful few we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Kraut.
Good evening. Okay, my name is Brenda Kraut, and I'm part of the Ojai pickleball community. And I wanted to express my support of this commission's recommending to the City Council to contract with an acoustical engineering firm to assess existing and possible sound mitigation efforts at the City Hall pickleball courts and at the lower Libby tennis courts. However, I don't agree that a separate noise standard should be developed specifically for pickleball. There aren't separate noise standards for tennis, baseball, or any other sport, is there? Creating a noise standard aimed only at pickleball is discriminating against one group of people. I thought Ojai strived to be an all-inclusive community, not separating out and discriminating against individual groups of people. Also, I have heard rumblings that there are some interest groups that want to be involved in the selection of this acoustical engineer. I don't agree with this. It's the City Council's responsibility to select an appropriate qualified engineer to conduct a non-biased third-party review of sound mitigation measures. Special interest groups involved in this selection will lead to a bias review, resulting in a conclusion that can be questioned by the other special interest groups. So I want to thank this commission for all the time, which you have put in a lot of time on this issue. And from the pickleball community, we really appreciate it. And that you were addressing and considering the needs, the pickleball needs in this valley. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Tim Kraut.
Good evening, Chair, staff, commissioners. I would like to mention the recent pickleball survey that was conducted between March 23rd to April 6, 2022. It was 10 questions that was on the city's parks, recreation website, the city's website, also via Facebook on the city's and rec department pages, and shared on several other community forums. I was saddened that the results of the survey, although printed, was not stated at the May 5th, 22 meeting, Parks and Rec meeting, or the May 17th Joint City Council and Rec Commission. I'd like to read to you that information from that survey. So first question, how often do you play? Well, it was 58% was 2 to 5 times per week. Second question, where do you play pickleball most of the time? 110 people responded, Ojai City Courts. The next lowest, the next group that came to that was OVAC, and a lot of those people play with us. The third question was, if you had played at Ojai Courts, what do you like about them most? The quality of the courts, that was number 1. Number 4, if you have played at the Ojai City Courts, what do you dislike about playing there? The number 1 response was the limited hours. Number 5, where do you reside? The highest percentage of people that play reside in the city of Ojai. The others was 42% of Ojai Valley. That totals 90% of the respondents are in the Ojai Valley. Number 6, most of the time, how far do you travel? Most of the time, it's 0 to 4 miles. And I think by just driving by the courts and looking, most of those people that come are on bicycles. Do you prefer playing pickleball indoors or outdoors? The number 1 response was outdoor, over 120 responses. Number 8, where do you prefer to play pickleball? When do you prefer to play pickleball? The number 1 response was morning hours. And number 9, please rank the following items in order of importance from 1 to 6, highest to lowest, when it comes necessary for amenities at the pickleball facilities. The highest amenity that they wanted was surface and condition of courts. We have that. So here's the data. It's a slam dunk. I mean, I thank the commissioners for doing the work, and hopefully the council will take that into consideration. In closing, now some of people want us to jump yet another hurdle to hire a sound engineer. If that is done, the testing should be for all the city parks, not just the pickleball sport. And the decision to hire this firm should be done by the city, not by a group of individuals with a bias. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Miley.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Miley. So, as I see this, the whole issue is the resolution of the sound noise generated from the City Hall tennis court conversion, which is now, of course, pickleball play. And before this happened today, anyway, I thought that the City Council had already decided to go ahead with that, and I realized that they permitted the Park and Recreation Commission to do that. It seems to me that in the process of recommending an engineering firm, we need to develop the issue of trust on both sides, on the pickleball play side and on the people who are living near it and dealing with the sound issue. So it seems to me that the selection of the engineering firm should not just be limited to the Ventura County area, but should include the one that we have repeatedly said, which is Spenderian and Willis in Phoenix, that are very definitely involved in this and have traveled over different parts of the western part of the United States. They should be offered the opportunity to respond to an RFP. So, and the final selection of an engineering group should be done in a public forum. Nobody has ever said that our group wants to select the group, and I believe that's not true. It's the city that's going to select the group, but it should involve the stakeholders in a public meeting so they have an opportunity to hear what you've thought about, what criteria you're using, and to believe that the firm is going to be good and trustworthy. We all need to trust it. Okay. And the issue is, it's not that it's just a sound. It's a special pickleball pop sound. It's an impulse sound. It's an impact sound that occurs within a fraction of a second. It's different than tennis hit or maybe similar to a baseball hit, but a lot of times they don't hit very often. They don't play all day long. So that's the key issue here is the paddle ball paddle hit. That is the issue. It's the only issue that generates the sound on the court on Ventura Street. And that the last summary part is, once the study is completed, serious discussion should take place on formulating a timeline to move this court to a mitigated site where play can continue that doesn't disrupt the lives of people who live nearby and who are nearby, like in the area behind City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, is it Laramundi?
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm a pickleball player. I've heard repeatedly from another group that pickleball is played every day, all hours, which is not true.
That's not true. You're right. I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pickleball was closed down for 5.5 weeks during the pandemic. Once we were able to play, it was single play only, and that was not put on any of the other parks, just our pickleball court. We have strict playing times. We don't play all day, every day. There's morning hours and there's afternoon hours, and that doesn't happen at any of the other tennis courts. It kind of feels discriminatory. Yesterday, I was here at 3 o'clock. There were only 3 players playing pickleball. So it doesn't happen all day, every day. And I think somebody broached on it. A lot of us ride our bikes here. Riding a bike to Soul Park wouldn't work for me because that would be like a 10-mile round trip from my home to play pickleball. And I just hope that this council will do what's right, Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Rule.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My history is kinesiology, which is movement, and physiology, and with elders as well. So I wanted to speak to the health benefits that the citizens of Ojai reap from doing this. There have been 2 studies. Just basically, it contributes to improving your agility, your muscular endurance, as well as eye-to-hand coordination. It uses all of your muscle groups, including your forearms, your biceps, your triceps, and because it's bending over, you're also working your quads and your hamstrings. So there have been other studies as well, but I will say that a new Western State Colorado University study found that regular pickleball playing, in this case 3 times a week for 1 hour for 6 weeks, resulted in improved blood pressure and cardiovascular fitness. The researchers who published the findings in the International Journal of Research and Exercise Physiology, you're free to read that. A Japanese study also published in the Journal of Leisure Studies focused on 153 adults competing in pickleball tournaments and found that serious leisure activities was associated with lower levels of depression, as you have heard people speak here. Now, I'd also like to speak specifically to the situation that we're talking about here. I do find that, it is discriminatory, what's happening with pickleball. Okay, so there's going to be a new sound code. If pickleball courts, the public courts go away, there are only two places, other than Soul Park, where you have to pay. That's the Ojai Valley Inn, thank you very much, and also the Ojai Athletic Club. Those will be the only courts. Both of them require a fair amount of funds to be able to play. Pickleball is the largest and fastest growing sport in America. It makes no sense that Ojai, which is known for its ball games, would put up the barriers that they have. I come here and there are 4 players on 4 courts going all of the time. That is a huge number. I live 1 block from Sarzati. I walk Sarzati all the time. It's comparatively to that, it's empty. And the second point I would like to make is if I can come up here and say that this particular sport is too loud, what's going to stop me, being a resident and close to Sarzati, to saying that that noise bothers me, that light bothers me, those parking situations bother me? You're opening up a can of worms. And so I would suggest that we think about what the precedent would be if a group of citizens can say in a public park it's not a fitting place to do the fastest growing sport in America in a town that is known for its ball games. So thank you very much. I think that's it. Oh, yeah, that's it. Because I got 6 seconds. Thank you.
Mark, I can't read your writing. Mark Body. Help me out here.
Sorry, that's been my whole life. My wife can't read my
Okay.
writing. It's Mark Bodycomb
Thank
is
you.
what that says. And just like everybody else, thank you so much, seriously, for what you guys and all of you do for the community. I really just want to join all my friends here, and most of whom are new friends. Lived in Ojai 30 years, tennis player, soccer player, basketball player, now pickleball player, and absolutely love the sport. You've heard a lot about just the growing popularity of the sport, which I think is critical even just to Ojai as a community and what that means both for us and for people who visit it. To me, I guess I just want to urge you all to continue to work diligently at finding a viable, realistic, acceptable solution to this problem. I realize there are a lot of people who have concerns about Soul Park. Personally, I think that needs to remain on the table as something, again, not knowing kind of what other iterations, but I would encourage you to at least not take that off the court. I just, in the Ojai News last week, read a very interesting article about the revamping and the master plan going on down at Sarasota Park. To be honest, I wasn't even aware that was going on, but I noticed in that master plan 2 basketball courts over in one corner of it. And I got honestly thinking, like, time out. Seriously, you're going to have 2 basketball courts right up against homes near Sarasota Park. And again, does the sound study include that? And why, to be honest, there are a whole lot more people that play pickleball than play basketball at Nordhoff or other outdoor courts that we have. And why might not those be pickleball courts instead of basketball courts? And then obviously, my wife and I were in Austin, Texas a couple of weeks ago, and we went to a place there where they had dual-use courts, tennis courts and pickleball courts. They were striped out to be the both, so the issues around the tennis players, which is understandable for tournaments that you can't take away our courts. Well, you can have the same court be multi-purpose, and they're simply managed on a reservation basis. And I realize there aren't reservations at Libby today, but that ought to be another consideration of converting some of the Libby courts to dual use and having some type of a shared reservation opportunity. And I think just my last comment is just in the meantime, because honestly, I would assume this is going to take quite a bit of time to work out between the studies and debate and, you guys making decisions and recommendations, the city council actually making decisions. And I want to urge you and the city council to maintain the current capabilities that we have here on this property until there is really a good, not just acceptable to the pickleball community, but really acceptable to the public at large, looking out for the best interest of Ojai citizens, both those of us who play now and the thousands of people and young kids. I just took two 20-year-olds out today who are so excited about playing, and they'll be playing for decades to come. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Bodycomb, one question. You mentioned you were in Texas. I didn't catch where you were in Texas. Austin. Thank you. Thank you. And our last speaker, Leslie Clark.
We actually will have one more.
Oh.
Someone on.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Clark, yes.
Hello. Thank you for listening. The pickleball community applauds the decision to hire a sound engineer to establish a sound standard that includes pickleball. This will be a way for us to expand our facilities within the legal limits of the sound standards which will be established. It's been suggested by the opponents of pickleball that they have a voice in choosing the sound engineering company who will test the different locations. The pickleball community would expect the Parks and Recreation Department to do their due diligence in choosing an appropriate and unbiased sound engineer. We would be willing to accept their choice, but if the opponents have a say, then we want a say. Where we would really like to be heard is the locations to be tested. The possibilities for our expansion, be it temporary or permanent, seem to be Libby Park, Soul Park, and we need to consider the western end of the City Hall campus for future development. We have the most used and most beautiful and easily maintained by the users facility in the city, recreational facility in the city. Please let us keep it and expand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I can't see the name on the screen. Okay. Miss Bell, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you for joining.
Yes. Hello again. Thanks for the chance to speak. Thanks for listening. And thank you for all your effort putting into providing pickleball here in Ojai. I'm Kristen Bell. I live here in Ojai, and I'm one of the neighbors at Sarasota Park and looking forward to the multi-use courts right next to my backyard. I moved here knowing I was moving next to a park, and I welcome it. I love the activity. I love the sound. It's just part of the deal of living next to a park. And I appreciate all the programs that you've brought to the city and your work. I originally had a question for you about the survey. I had participated in the survey and had not been able to find the results. So I'm glad Tim brought those. If you could maybe make those available in the minutes or point me to them. I've been looking for them and haven't been able to find them. And I'm interested in what different people had to say. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time and for your ears and your work.
Thank you.
Chair, we do have another member from the community via Zoom, and that is Mr. Alan Bell. Mr. Alan Bell, can you confirm you can hear us, please?
And there's at least 2 more cards someplace that we're trying to find.
On 7A? I have 2 pink cards, Patty McFall and Bob, but it says 7C. You want to be A? Okay. Sorry. Okay. We'll do our online Zoom call in Alan Bell.
Mr. Bell, can you confirm you can hear us, please? Mm-hmm.
Wait,
You're on mute, Alan.
okay, sorry.
Thank
I think
you.
I unmuted myself there. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm Alan Bell. As Kristen mentioned, I'm her husband, and we live next to Sarzotti. The point was brought up by others already, but I'm going to go with it. It appears that in that last month's agenda that you guys had indicated that the acoustic engineer is to propose appropriate noise standards for the pickleball gameplay that reflect the city's noise code. That was concerning to me that it was being singled out as well, and that an impulse sound from a baseball bat currently is a lot higher than in a pickleball. It's at about 120 decibels. So if we're going to do this, you're going to be looking at that same issue for people who live near the baseball fields that we have here. So that was the only point I wanted to bring up. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. And we have Patty McFall. Sorry about that. I think it was a small A, and I thought it was a C with a line through it.
Okay. So most of my life, I've had to exercise to control my weight.
Thank you.
Okay, most of my life, I've had to exercise to control my weight. I won't go into all the modes over the decades, but I've gone from Jane Fonda exercise tapes to the gym, spin class, and everything in between. I will say that always, pretty much, it's always been drudgery. I hate exercise. My husband and I moved to Ojai about 12 years ago and just haven't gotten around to finding that routine again. Only a few months ago, we found these beautiful pickleball courts here in Ojai, and really for the first time, I can say exercise is really fun. I want to play every day, and it's actually been an obsession that's good for me. And I'm sure it benefits us all. Aside from the physical benefits, the others might be even greater. Of course, there's the obvious abundance of laughter that has been proven to be a health benefit. But I really am overwhelmed with the welcome that I received and the sense of community, how kind people are to those of us who didn't know how to play. Everyone took time and was patient to teach and help and chase our balls. Several of the players get there early to clean the courts and the surrounding areas and to be good stewards to the neighborhood. These courts mean a lot to many people. We want to be good neighbors in the courts and outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Bob McFall?
I apologize for looking like a C.
That's okay. It's my fault.
My writing is like that. Thank you very much for hearing us all this evening. I know you have a very important and difficult job to do in these situations. In my previous life, I spent many years the director of Parks and Recreation for a very large metropolitan city, not far from here, about 60 miles from here. And I spent my last 25 years as the assistant city manager and city manager of facilities, and have managed dozens and dozens of large sports complex with lights, really bright lights, and PA systems, and lots of sounds and noises and courts, and interfaces between neighborhoods. These are very difficult issues, and it's what you have before you now, and we appreciate the time that you're taking, the due diligence that's going into this, and just the sincere attention that you've given to it this evening. Hopefully, what we've given you this evening will provide you some good information for making some informed decisions about some of the next steps. I first became aware of pickleball in this incredible sport several years ago when I was serving as the city manager for Royal Grande. Fastest
sport, growing sport in the Central Coast area. And it didn't take very long before conflicts developed between the tennis players and the local residents. And not dissimilar from what's going on in Ojai right now, hearings like this took place. And ultimately, the decision was made. It was just important to move forward with the pickleball courts because it simply is such a rapid, fast-growing sport and a good balance for the community, and so many people were able to do it. When my wife and I moved here about 12 years ago, we really didn't have a group sport that we played together. I played some golf. My wife isn't a golfer, but unfortunately, after a back accident and surgery, I'm really not able to do that. But fortunately, we found the pickleball courts. We were introduced to them several months ago, and now we're regulars. My wife has been taking lessons. We are over there all the time. Tim is an amazing advocate for pickleball, and everybody, the people in this room and beyond who aren't here tonight, they're all absolutely amazing individuals. It's a game that I'm sure you're probably aware of, that within a very short period of time, you can become proficient at it. You can actually play. You can have a good time. You can be out there and actually having good exercise. Without sounding disingenuous, I really want to say it has actually been life transforming for my wife and I, that we are able to do a sport together, that we dink in our front yard to warm up. We get on our e-bikes. We run down here and play and meet all these new people that 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we didn't know, and now they're all really good friends. Not only has it been good for us, but as many people have talked about, the community of pickleball is absolutely amazing. We heard about this, but you actually have to be involved in it. And I say I have a few seconds left. You have to be involved in it to understand just how it is. I would like to encourage you to really take into consideration that this is a very low impact sport and very low impact facility. I've mentioned a number of the facilities that I have managed, and the communities have to deal with. In my experience, in my professional opinion, having this facility here that is managed by the pickleball players themselves in a time of challenging budgets, to have a facility that is really self-managed and self-run by the people who are actually here playing and doing it and taking care of it, and that honestly has a very low impact in the surrounding areas in contrast to so many other activities that could be there and that are taking place throughout the city. I hope that you'll find it in your wisdom of choice to continue to allow us to continue to play there. Really give serious consideration if it's the best use of dollars to even invest in doing a sound study that somehow singles out pickleball over other well-established noise parameters for sports in general that have already been in place and tested for decades and decades. And let this fine group of people continue to play as they have been. Thank you very much for your attention this evening.
Thank you. And any more online speakers for 7A? No? And I have no more speaker cards for that. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, for
Yes.
those that are interested in seeing the survey and the results, they are available on the city's website at 2 different locations. First, under the Parks and Recreation Commission tab, and the agenda packet for last month's meeting, as well as the city's calendar for the meeting date. There, they can find a copy of the agenda and packet and those survey results.
I thought they were presented. That's what I thought. I think they're at about the 8-minute mark, if I remember correctly, on the minutes. Thank you. Okay. And we will move on to item B, the multi-purpose sport courts update. Louise?
Perfect.
And I think there's some information in our packet as well. This is exciting information coming up if those of you want to stay. Thank you for coming.
When you start talking about a swimming pool for the city, then I'll be happy.
I think that's. That's item C. We'll give him just a minute. Thank you. Mhm. Thank you. And then there were two. Thank you. Okay, Louise, proceed.
Of course. So for the multipurpose sports courts, so we are currently working with Stantec, the engineering firm, to determine if any additional studies are needed in order to move the project onto its next phase. One study that we do anticipate that may be needed is a geotechnical study, which is soils report. In our research, we found that proposals for this type of work were received by the city back in January and February of 2020. However, this was right around the time that the department closed due to the COVID pandemic. We reached out to both firms that submitted proposals and are still waiting to hear from one. If that organization indicates that they did not complete the study, we'll proceed to have these studies conducted. And then from there, we can go ahead and proceed. From there, and of course, if there's no concerns with those studies, we can begin on putting together the request for bids and proposals for the project. And with that, that summarizes my update for the sports courts.
And funding-wise, where are we?
So funding-wise, we have sufficient funds to go ahead and complete the project.
Okay,
Yes.
we're there.
Correct. Yes, City Council did authorize funds to be utilized.
I just want to make sure we put that out there because we've been, thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Any questions from my commissioners online? No? Okay. Thank you, Louise. 7C, we have the community pool programming recommendation that the commission receive an update on a request received from the Ojai Unified School District to formulate a proposal for potential summer aquatics programming and provide a recommendation to the city council on whether to submit a proposal to the school district.
Thank you. So in summary of the staff report, recently the city received a request from the Ojai Unified School District where it was hoped that the city would present a proposal for aquatic programming for their new pool. At the May 11th, 2022 school board meeting, the board of directors recommended that staff explore a potential partnership with the city for community access outside school use hours for their new proposed pool. The following day, Superintendent Dr. Morris contacted the city with this request, and in the request it was noted that the cost and associated revenues of the program would be the responsibility of the city. Concurrently, the district also approached the YMCA with a similar request. As the commission considers making a recommendation for council's consideration, it may also want to consider including any additional feedback in regards to the proposed pool, such as site, location at the Nordhoff School site, which could potentially impact parking, ingress, and egress at the location. Now, to aid the commission in its decision regarding the recommendation, we have put together some slides showing past aquatic programs offered by the rec department, which also includes participation numbers, revenues, and expenses. And with that, I'll go ahead and bring up that slide here. And past program includes swim lessons for both youth and adults, lap swim as well as public swim. Swim lessons were offered in both a group and private setting. Additionally, parent and child class was offered as well. With that, we also have a slide that indicates the different available swim lessons, the various times. This particular one was based out of the Villanova pool, as the Nordhoff High School site was unavailable to us during this time. Additionally, we do have program participation numbers. So the participation numbers we do have by those enrolled in specific programs, public swim, as well as passes sold. We have 2017 numbers here. So for the program, we have 255 participants, public swim 274, and 50 passes were sold. Now the passes sold that could include individual or family. Family would be up to 4 there. For 2018, we have 252 for the program, 312 for public swim, and 37 passes sold. As far as revenue and expenses, revenue for 2017 was $18,000, while expenses were $4,500. For 2018, it was pretty similar. It was $18,000 for revenue and $5,600 for expenses. With that, I will go ahead and turn it back over to the commission for any questions or clarifying.
On the prior, did you say 18 and 19?
That is correct.
And so that would have included the swimming lessons, correct?
That is correct,
So,
yes.
Do you have a breakdown of free swim versus swimming lessons? I'm just curious what.
So in regards to, let me go ahead and pull that slide up so we can, I'll go ahead and see that here. Please bear with me.
And if I recall, we did it in, is it 2-week sessions?
That is correct. So under the participation numbers, we do have programming, which would have been the swim lessons.
Okay.
And then we do have public swim. So we have broken those out. Now the public swims, these are approximates as they're drop-in activities. So what we ended up doing, rather than pulling every single sign-in sheet, we took the revenues for that and then we divided based off of the cost for that participation, and that's how we came up with the 274 for 2017 and 312 for 2018.
Total.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Luis?
Yes.
Clarifying question. It sounds like the request from the school district was for us to propose something for all hours that the school's not using the pool. Would that include more than just the summer?
So that is correct. So it would be for outside of school use hours.
So, I mean, I think our proposal should be year round then. Outside of school hours, I think there's a lot of interest in, lap swim year round and probably some free swim as well. And I think for the summer, it should be more than just the traditional 6 weeks, but should be like 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
More intensive use if the school isn't using the pool during that time.
Absolutely. If the commission wishes to make that as part of the recommendation, absolutely can go ahead and do so.
I think it's important to look at too, even if you look in the report here, there's a difference between what was requested by the superintendent and what really I heard from the board. If you look at it, it isn't just a summer program that was discussed by the board. There were 2 different meetings that have happened since then. There was a board meeting where it was first presented, and there was discussion there. And then they had a workshop the Monday after that meeting, and there was a lot of discussion. I think there was still feeling out whether, they were discussing the language, community pool versus community access and what that means. And I think even in this, I think the board recommended staff explore potential participation or partnerships with the city of Ojai and what that looks like for community access. But I don't think it's defined. I think that it should be a year-round look. I don't know that it's, just a swim program because there's a little bit of inconsistency between the 2 requests.
It just seems premature to me. Do they have a plan, or is this just a wish? I mean, where are they at?
They had a presentation from consultants, one of which was an architect, the other, I'm not going to, I don't want to quote because I don't remember all, but there was a partnership that was an architecture firm that came and presented a deck of slides about different types of pools and different use, and then had representatives at both of those meetings to discuss. But I didn't see in the packet that there's any written report or submitted substantial backup to those slides. All that it was available is a slide deck that I could find. So I think you're right. There's a lot more work to be done. I think the question is, are we interested in participating? I think that's a big question. I think there's so many questions that we'd have to look at. I think for us, the interesting part of this would be to form like a committee, a commission committee to work on this and ask the questions and do the research and look at other places and what programs offer. Because, for instance, for me, I love water aerobics. And so I think there's, we haven't even pushed out into what our community could use, and, you know, and have an understanding of what people are actually looking for, because, I mean, we have a pretty substantial senior population. So, you know, there's a lot of different activities that aren't lap swimming that could be offered. So I think there's a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of work to be done, and I think that we don't even have a firm understanding of what the project's gonna look like, but there's a question about, are we interested in partnering? I think that's the question here, without enough detail to even understand what that means, but I think we have been discussing community pools.
We actually had
Over
an
the
ad hoc, I
years,
think,
we've
or we
had
had
a committee, yeah.
we had a standing committee that
For a
was
while.
working on it for a while. My question is, where are we at? The last agreement we had with them to work with them was in, what, 18 or 19? When did it end?
You know, that's a very good question.
And what was the agreement? Was it something in writing? Was it just, this is what we, you know, I'd like to have a little bit of historical data on that for the commission, I think, to review. There's, I
also think Karen has her hand up. Sorry.
Yes, Karen.
It's hard to see
Sorry,
sometimes
it's really
from
hard
our view.
from the side. Yes, Karen, please.
So I have a couple of questions. Some of it's just to clarify. So when you talk about public swim, does that mean like just open swimming? Or does that include the lap swimming as well?
It's open swim.
Okay, so, and then is there, along with this request from the school district, was there any sort of deadline suggested?
No.
Or imposed? Okay.
No.
So it's just an open-ended request for essentially to kick off some sort of conversation? Is that what it is?
Yes, and there isn't too much detail behind the request, and part of what the commission can do if it wishes, part of the recommendation would be to recommend that additional information be provided, so that way the commission can make an educated decision.
Educated recommendation. Yeah. I agree. I mean,
Also, I wanted to follow up. So you presented the expenses from the previous program. So could you just give me generally what those expenses are? Is it like lifeguards, and what are the expenses involved in the city running a program at another facility?
Absolutely. It would be use of the facility, wages for employees, for those lifeguards, and then any equipment that would be needed to run programming.
So there was a fee paid to use the facility?
Yes.
Okay. 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 So I've been sort of following this conversation that they've been having at the school board and the workshop, mostly through the newspaper, but also in other ways. So I know at least part of where they are is trying to decide whether to build the smaller pool or the larger pool and where to put it. And, you know, is it in the, like, sort of in the more on the school campus, or is it more on the edge of the campus? So it just seems to me logically the larger pool closer to Maricopa Highway, more restrooms, makes it a more community accessible facility than the other pool. So I'm guessing the school district might be wanting to get some idea of what kind of programming could be offered, what kind of revenues could be generated in order to have that input for their decision. Because there's like a $250,000 difference in the building costs, plus there's a maintenance cost difference depending on which pool they go for. And I noticed on your report, Louise, you said that we might make other recommendations or offer to the city council to consider making other recommendations vis-a-vis the size, the location, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm in agreement with what's been said before. We need more information, and we need to sort of consider what are the possibilities, not simply from what we've done, what's been done historically. Because I know, like, before COVID, there were water aerobics programs for seniors that used various pools, and that's an obvious need. And besides the public free swim, lap swim, et cetera, et cetera. So it does seem like we would need more information, but it also seems like it's an opportunity that we want to recommend that we try to move on.
Can, I think before we make a recommend, I mean, my comfort level, I'd like to have some more information on what we've done in the past. I'd like to copy of the agreements that we've had in the past. And I just don't know why we don't have enough information really at this point to make a recommendation. I mean, absolutely. There's a little speaker. There's a little speaker card there, Louise. Okay, thank you. Yes. Oh, okay. Commissioners, maybe, I mean, we can certainly discuss a little bit more, but maybe this would be a good time to take some public comments. I have several speaker cards. Bill Miley, would you like to start us off on 7C?
Good evening, Bill Miley.
Thank you.
So a lot has been said about this already, not here, but at the several school district meetings that have been held, including one last night. So here's my opinion, at least one part of my opinion. The school district is thinking that it's their pool that will get built and that they will give it up to the community during the summer or when they are not using it. But the bonds, Measure K, that are paying for this, which in 2020 came up to approved $45 million, are paying for the Aquatic Center, the building of it. In promoting the bond funding, which all the parcel owners in the Ojai Valley within the district voted on and now are paying for, the messages were included that the school district was supportive of a community aquatic center, and it was indicated that it would be kind of full-time, not just 6 to 7, 2 to 3, or whenever we're not using it, the trustees said. So now the trustees seem to be backing off from having a full-time community aquatic center. But that's not, we don't want just a part-time when they're not using it pool. We want one that is available all the time, full-time, year-round, as a community pool. We have 30,000 people in this valley, 8,000 in the city, 23,000 other, and as the temperature gets warmer, they're going to be wanting someplace to recreate in a pool. Now, all the government stakeholders should be involved in this. The school, which they are, the city, which they're kind of asking, as I understand it, to do a summer programming thing, which the city shouldn't do. The city should do a year-round, just like is being mentioned by several of your commissioners. But the county, the city, and the school should all be government-wise involved in this, because the county has 23,000 people that they should protect, part of welfare, health, public safety. That's the law. And the benefits should go to all the parcel holders and all the people that live in the valley. So we need a full-time aquatic center. Now get this, I sent this to you. A full-time aquatic center can generate, this is not the school pool, but maybe a 15-meter pool for the community, enough revenue to pay almost the full load for the operation, for the maintenance, and the repair of both pools. I sent you information from Bend, Oregon, the Oregon Park and Rec District. And I got this from Larry Yee, who has lived here for years. And it shows how annual membership fee of about $300 or $400, theirs is $1,000, but they have a fitness center too, will pay for $800,000 a year. And I gave you some more information that is estimating how many people would participate. So I think that the best thing that we can do now is to provide a full year recreation program plan that would be supportive of a separate pool. And I'd like to know the statistics relative to a swim program. Where were the pools that you used for that?
So it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for clarity, it was a partnership with the Villanova Preparatory School and Ojai Unified School District for the Nordhoff pool.
Would you say that's a 50-50 split, or where was the dominant use?
Towards the later years, it was at Villanova. The Nordhoff High School pool was not available to us due to maintenance.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bill Wyrick.
Bill Warwick. I have two hats tonight, and it's hard to separate interested citizen, concerned citizen, and council member, so, I'm not even going to try. I really appreciate the instinct that I'm seeing in everyone's thought that we need to look at this as something to be analyzed on the basis of how the support for it was solicited. When the school district asked for everybody in the valley to support Measure K, the words were community pool. The words were a resource for the entire valley community. Our Park and Rec Department is the valley-wide perspective on providing recreational and health and fitness services for the valley. I believe, and Louise can correct me if I'm wrong, about half and half of our clients are inside the city limits and outside the city limits. So this is the natural perspective to evaluate what is the best way to fulfill that public trust in terms of maximizing the investment, the net benefits of this investment that was demonstrated partially, not the only reason to support, but one of the reasons a lot of people supported Measure K. The first thing you do in a major capital project is what's called programming. You evaluate what is the best way to capture that maximum net benefit of service to the entire community, including all of the educational needs and the educational benefits. And Chair, if you can give me a little more time, I'll appreciate it after the 3 minutes. And so I think that it is important that when you are planning a capital project, you first arrive at a programming document, a written programming document that lays out what you're trying to achieve, what are all the benefits, what are the costs. And for example, different designs are going to have different ratios of benefits and costs. Yes, costs may go up for a larger facility, but revenues may go up more than proportionally. That's what you want to do in programming. It's unfortunate that last night the school district turned down doing a programming study, a feasibility study. They said, no, we're not going to do a feasibility study on a multi-million-dollar capital project, which is unfortunate because that is also a problem. They don't even have a defined expense, and they are losing about $1 million a year in enrollment sacrifice revenues. In other words, the 5% per year of that enrollment has been going down for the last 10 years or so, translates into a revenue bleed. So the question is, how are you going to pay? How are you going to properly maintain and repair a facility like this once built unless you involve the entire community in both the capital costs, which has already been demonstrated support for, and how you pay for maintenance and repair? Because I can tell you, I was a vice president for business affairs for 10 years at a university, and if you have an auditorium, and I was also very involved with city recreation programs, if you don't budget for keeping up a aquatic facility, it degrades really rapidly. That's part of the programming, is how are you going to keep it up? And so I would really urge that this group that has the natural perspective of the entire valley's park, recreation park and fitness needs, look at what such a facility could, what's the best design, have that be part of the public debate, and hopefully engage in elevating the overall public narrative and discussion of this issue, and in effect fill the gap that we are seeing with the, for some reason, the Board of Trustees of the school district not wanting to engage in programming before design, which is how you do large capital projects. I did a lot of them. That's what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin Hartman, also known to me as Conrad's dad.
Yes, I'm actually Vicky's husband. That's my role.
Yes.
If I can have an extra minute too, that would be great. Thank you for having me, everybody there. My name's Martin Hartman, architect. I am currently on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the pool through the district. I was involved in the bond measure committee, Measure K for Kids committee. I provided a rendering of the pool. I like to think that that helped the bond get approved. I echo Councilman Wyrick's sentiments that it's disappointing that the board didn't vote in favor of a feasibility study. The committee that I'm on has not been effective, in my opinion, and I've spoken to that at the board meetings. I feel like, again, obstructionism is a good word to describe that. They're protecting their interest, and rightly so. It's their money. They're losing money through their general fund, and they just want to do the minimum that's needed for the school. I do feel it's short-sighted that they didn't approve a feasibility study because they need to know what the operating expenses are. There was a proposal on the table yesterday, $28,000, which included the designer of the pool. It's a special group that works with the architect. They're called an Aquatic Design Group. I've worked with them. They're very good. And another consultant that specifically does pool programming, like how to use the pool and get the programs running. So generally speaking, the board and the district are saying, we're going to build this 35-meter pool that's sufficient for our students and serves our students' need. If the city wants to come in and do summertime programs, we're open to that too. But in terms of going with a bigger pool, which is needed to conduct the year-round programs, they are sitting pat until someone else comes up with a solution or presents something to them. The fact they voted 3-2 to not go through with this indicates to me that there are some people on the board that would be supportive of investigating more robust use of the pool rather than just, it's open to the city during the summertime. The committee has been difficult to get meetings. I've insisted that we continue to meet and people don't respond to my invites. We have people that on the committee that are not part of the district. I feel like the district members of the committee are just kind of being silent because that is their position, that they're going to build a pool and a citizens committee is not needed. We have some committee members, Mark Whitman. We have the Sider family. They do the Heat Waves program at the club. And there's the Master Swim, the YMCA. There's other private citizens here that I think really could make a difference. I was project manager for David Burry on the Libby Bowl project. And so I got to see firsthand, like he really was active as a private citizen to make this work. And the community raised $1 million to help build the bowl. And so I think we're actually in a fortunate position because my understanding is the difference between a 35-meter and a 50-meter pool in terms of construction cost is, $1 or $2 million. I don't know the exact cost. A lot of it has to do with if you have a bigger pool, there's more plumbing fixtures required. So again, I think there would be some support. I think the board members that vote against it, they just are hesitant to commit to something larger and spend more money because they're losing money. They're going to have to lay off 30-something staff because of these budget shortfalls. They're really scared. I think that it would be great for the city. I'm a private citizen. I'm not affiliated with either organization, and I'm trying to keep it together and keep it going because I just feel like it's important for the community and the kids. I don't like to swim, but my family loves it. My wife always said, build a pool, let's build a pool. I'm like, this is my effort to build a pool. So, anyhow, I just wanted to update you. Again, the district has taken no action. I sent out an invite for every second Monday of the month to have a committee meeting. Our next committee meeting that I'm hosting is Monday, June 3rd. I believe it was 5:30 or 6. I can get back to you on that. And so far, the only acceptance I have is from the YMCA. So there's at least 2 people there that are going to be in my meeting. At a previous board meeting, I offered to donate some money out of my own pocket to get some of these consultants to sit down with us at a meeting and maybe outline how we could conduct our own feasibility study of the citizenry, and if the city wants to chip in and participate, I think that would be good. It's a risk. The school district doesn't have to accept that and do that. They can vote however they see fit, but I feel if we participate with them and try to, bring the spirit of partnership, I think at least we will have done what we can do. Getting a 35-meter pool that reestablishes a summer program, I think is a win anyway. But I think that with some convincing and elbow grease on our part, I think there's a possibility to have something bigger, because a 35-meter pool won't allow for year-round use. They have to have the 50-meter pool. So there's a lot to discuss, and it is disheartening they didn't go through with this feasibility study. But like I said, there's an opportunity here to take their proposal and just kind of bring it into the fold of a true citizens committee. So that's my update. Thanks for the extra time. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Chair, I do see Commissioner Wilson's hand raised. Commissioner
Thank
Wilson,
you. Thank you for that.
I haven't raised my hand.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
I see the hand raised too. The yellow thing. There. Okay, there we go.
Sorry, I hadn't lowered it. Sorry.
I don't know where to start. I have to be honest. I am not sure that the direction to the commission is totally clear on. I mean, that's just how I'm feeling. I don't know that. I did not watch the meeting last night, so I wasn't anticipating that. I think that in order for the commission to make a educated recommendation, we need to have a lot more information. I think Measure K. I am a property owner and impacted by that. I'll have to review the talking points on that. I'm not really quite sure where to start. Any other commissioners have some input they'd like to provide? Commissioner Wilson?
I'll chime in here. So given what the last speaker just shared, again, I do see this as an opportunity, but as he also said, it's a big risk, because one way we can think of this now is in requesting proposals, and I say this a bit out of my own previous experience, in requesting proposals for programming, it appears the school district is pushing off a feasibility study, as it were, on potential programming partners. In other words, let's get somebody else to do the heavy, expensive lifting. And while sort of knowing full well that it really is their responsibility. I agree with the last speaker. I think this is not indicating good stewardship of that bond, those bond funds. But I also agree with Councilman Wyrick that, the City of Ojai Parks and Rec Commission does have the sort of bigger perspective. But I think it's a risky thing right now to really seriously consider the proposal. I agree with the chair. We need a lot more information. And I guess perhaps the way to get more information might be to have a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee and maybe participate somewhat with the Citizens Advisory Committee. Maybe talking things over with the YMCA. Maybe they have some a different perspective or additional perspective. But it does feel like, at this point, it feels like the school district is sort of trying to shove off a responsibility. And I think we have to proceed very cautiously.
I agree. I think that they elected and voted last night to push that off, and maybe that is something that we need to push back on a little and have them rethink their decisions and the impacts before it comes to the commission for the city to step in. I don't see that it's beneficial to us to do, like you said, their heavy lifting. That's what the feasibility study is there for, is to advise them of frankly, how feasible the project is, right? I think that's where the term comes from. I think that the trustees are entrusted to make sound decisions. It sounds like there is some conflict based on the vote that was shared. And I think that as the chair, I can't support I have nothing to really go on right here. I don't even know where we would start.
I think there is a question, and it's a bigger question, about either whether it's community access or community pool. This question of the pool has been out in the community as long as I can remember. And this is the closest we're coming to a project. I think as a commission, we could have a subcommittee that could work on questions that we'd like answered, because they're inviting us to try and participate. What we're saying is, with the information that we have, we don't even understand how we would be engaging with you. There's not enough information. So if we started a subcommittee and the committee worked on trying to put together the questions that we would need answered, that might be work worth doing.
An ad hoc committee.
An ad hoc committee, yeah, to put that together and then bring it back here and have that discussion. I think
it also involves some community, not just the unified school district, but the citizens being represented. So,
well, and the unified school district does represent that is the most common boundary to the valley as we see it, is our school district boundaries, because it's we're talking all the way Upper Ojai out to part way through to Oakview. Their boundary is the boundary that what most of us think of as the valley. So, but we represent the body that serves the recreational purposes. I totally agree with that for both those in the city proper and outside. And is that, I think, well, there's two things. There's the questions and not having enough information. And then there's also something that maybe we could do, which is our part of just trying to see and provide feedback on what people would really want and need.
Through a survey.
Which is programming. And I understand, and I totally agree with what Karen was saying, but to a limited capacity, our ad hoc committee could collect information the way we do about all these other projects, put it together and make recommendations. We won't claim that it's a programming document or it's a feasibility study, but there's enough examples of built pools, and we have and other times collected some of that information and put in the time to, we won't present it as a professional document, but this is the work of the commission's ad hoc committee and the commission as they interact with that committee to just present a better look at what, the things that would be needed. As to the summer program, we know how to do the summer program. Staff has done a great job on the summer program for years. The change from one pool to the other was because we didn't have access to that pool. It wasn't a matter that we left Nordhoff because we didn't want to be there. It was that the pool, to the districts, to their end, the pool was no longer able to be used for that purpose. The fact that they're still using it is because they're getting exceptions on health and safety to even be there now. But for years and years and years, Nordhoff was the community pool, and the city has over the years put money into that pool. I mean, it was not just the school district's pool. There's a long history of collaboration on these things. But I think the confusing and hard part right now is that what we're getting from the district is not, from my perspective, a collaborative process so much as we're going to do this. And if you want to do this, this is what we're telling you can be involved in. Well, I'm not satisfied or okay with that. What I think is that because on that question, do you think there's a question? There's no question that we could run a summer program. That question
Well,
is,
let's review it. The commission received an update on the request, so I didn't see the actual letter, but to formulate a proposal for summer aquatics program, that's a known. We've done that. That's kind of that can be deferred to staff. That's not really an issue. It's the council recommendation on the city council on whether to submit a proposal to the school district. I don't know that.
Well, and then but the other question.
They've ever opposed us having summer programs there. It's never been a problem, right?
No, but the question, I think, from the previous to yesterday's meeting, which I have not watched, so it doesn't inform my understanding. The board, though, I think earlier was looking for partners. And they
financial partners or programming
partners in programming. And I mean, partners, they were looking for partnership. I don't think that was defined either. I think that wasn't defined in what they were requesting. They did, I think, specifically request it to be community access. Is that the term they were using?
Community pool versus
community access versus community pool. It was a community access pool, which they had gone around on in their meeting. But they were looking for partnerships. So as far as a partnership, I mean, that's one is more specific to just summer. That's new. I think what was talked about at those previous meetings by the board itself in discussion, and what I thought they were asking for was, let's have an opportunity to open it up to partnerships. And I don't believe it was just the school district. It wasn't just the city. It was the YMCA. It was open to whoever and wherever we could find good partners to do the best project we can do, was what I took away from that discussion. So if we look at it that way, and not so specifically only to summer, I think there's some capacity as an ad hoc committee to do some work that would be informative and meaningful.
I agree. I think your focus on the questions that need to be addressed is a good one. And then also I think looking at the history of the previous arrangements and the programming that was done, collecting that history gives a good perspective on what has been done, what worked in the past, what didn't maybe work. I don't think it would be I don't think it has to be a very extensive effort to surface the questions and document the history that might inform then a possible recommendation, a possible proposal, whatever. But it would give us the basic information so we could, I think, make that decision.
I don't know if you can see, but Ella and Ryan both have their hands up.
Okay, I cannot see. I
don't
don't have those distant glasses tonight.
Sorry, you guys.
Ella?
Well, two things kind of. I think one, this is obviously a huge decision. This is not going to be an issue in the Valley for a long time. So I think it's really important to get all the information, everything that we can to make the best and most informed decision. And number two, just to kind of maybe give some comfort and some clarity as to the students' perspective, we have like the worst pool around. We have jets that circulate the pool so that you're literally swimming against it in certain lanes and the other way in other lanes. I mean, if you sat on one end of the pool, you'd just be taken in a circle. That's how bad it gets. So I think that students would be happy to have a pool they could use that's functioning, that's a good pool. If that means you have to share it, I don't think any student's going to care about that at all. And if that means bigger pool, great. I just think that students are looking to have something where they feel comfortable swimming in a pool and feel proud of what they have. So, yeah.
I think that there are some issues with having a community pool versus a school pool, because when you have your students there, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, I wouldn't want my child there with it open to the public, even if it was supervised by a lifeguard. It's a different level of protection and security. And I'm not sure that a community pool versus mixed use during the school hours is something that that OUSD is even willing to consider.
Again, though, that's programming and feasibility study. I mean, how you address that could really you could have a really different opinion if you had something presented to you as an option. You go, oh, I could be comfortable with that. Because, I mean, there's so many ways to create, I'm just going to use this Casitas as a funny, they have locker rooms with showers that are open one way for part of the day and not one way for the other part of the day. I mean, there's, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves because this is the whole point of why you need programming and feasibility studies is to understand what you can and can't do based on information.
Commissioner Firestone? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for us to kind of try to get more information. But at the same time, I think, like we heard from me earlier and others, like our angle should be kind of asking the question, like, what would this look like as an aquatic center for Ojai? And if that doesn't make sense from kind of looking into this, then, why doesn't it? And what does make sense? But I think our starting point should be an aquatic center.
So almost like a guiding question for the ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
I have a pool at my house, and I have personally am not interested in sitting on an ad hoc. I just want to be transparent. I also find that the school trustees are difficult to work with, and it's not a good fit for me. So I'm happy to support an ad hoc commission or committee, but again, just to be transparent, I have zero interest in sitting on that. I just can't do that right now. So if you have other commissioners that are interested, I think that we can certainly do that tonight. And I also feel strongly about having it be collaborative. I don't think it should just be two commissioners. I think we should put it out to the public to it's kind of different than when we did the collaboration with pickleball versus tennis. We had some really clear interested parties. I'm not sure what, I'm almost inclined to say, let's table this to put it out to the public so that we can have some public input on what groups would be interested in participating in an ad hoc committee to have further discussions on the future of, water activities in the valley. Because I don't know the answer. Yes, Commissioner Walker. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm fully supportive of doing this in a collaborative way. I think there's already in place, though, some potential partners that Citizens Advisory Committee for the school district sounds like a place, one group to connect with. And there's also been lots and lots of input to the school board on this pool design and the community pool. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there was even some data collected in the last Parks and Recreation survey back in 2015, 2016 about community pools. So, we have some data. It's a little out of date maybe, but I think it would, I think an ad hoc committee is a good idea. I think we could ask that if there's commissioners who want to serve on it, that they reach out to that Citizens Advisory Committee and sort of get, connected with them. And that seems like they've already got connected with the YMCA. And then, if initially it starts off as questions, one of the questions is, what information do we have that will help us look at any, possibilities going forward? And Ryan's thing about it's an aquatic center, so yeah, it can be turned to the city's interests, but I think there's already some resources out there, and we don't necessarily have to try to recruit more, because also I'm surprised there were more people speaking on this issue tonight, because it's been such a hot issue before the school board. So I think if this is on the agenda next month, I think we're going to get more public input.
Do you think it would be beneficial to table the item so that we can encourage the public to come and provide input before we form an ad hoc committee, so we know how to design it correctly? Or what would be the commission's preference? Do you want I think there's a lot of data that we can gather in the next 30 days, right, before the next meeting.
I think forming the ad hoc committee could happen now. And I also think the concerns about public participation, forming an ad hoc committee is the beginning step, but workshops and other things, if we feel like we want or need to do those are possibilities for the commission to do. We've done them before historically on topics that needed more input, and we were looking to get more participation. So I don't know that it's an either or. We could form it but not appoint anybody yet. I mean, we can get started but not rush forward. I mean, like, there's a, I would like to hear, what other commissioners think, but I think the ad hoc process will allow for us to bring back to the commission, which always allows for public participation. But if we specifically wanted to, I think we could create a workshop to react to the stuff, either the workings of the committee if we wanted to at some point.
Okay.
But other commissioners.
So I would just caution that without a specific, in a fact-finding situation, I think it's important to get input, but without a specific goal in mind. In other words, for example, this commission saying, we want to recommend to the city council that they partner with the school district on the programming for this new aquatic center, whatever it is, wherever it is. That's a goal that we want to achieve. Without a specific goal like that, I'm not sure, but what workshops and other things might just raise expectations that can't be fulfilled or won't be fulfilled. Because we're saying we don't have enough information. We know that people want a community pool. We know that. I don't think that that's disputed by anybody. I don't think that there's any opinion against that. Beyond that, I'm not sure what else we would need to know until we have some other questions answered.
I think Ryan has his hand up.
Commissioner Firestone?
Yeah, maybe this is a question for Karen, but I'm wondering, what are the questions that we need answered, or what is the information that we don't have that we need to get moving on this?
Well, it would be nice to have a feasibility study, wouldn't it? But we don't have that. So I think the question before us is to make a recommendation to council. I think they're asking the commission, well, actually, the school district is asking the commission to make a recommendation to council. And I'm not sure, honestly, I mean, I don't know that.
I'm not ready to make a
I'm
recommendation.
not ready to make a recommendation either. I think that forming an ad hoc committee to discuss forming an ad hoc committee tonight, if we have interested commissioners who are willing to serve in that capacity, to get clarification on the school district's request, what it is they're really wanting in more detail. And if the ad hoc can address those concerns and bring it back to the commission to make a better recommendation to council.
I think it's bigger than that and not exclusively driven by the question that's presented to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that forming the ad hoc committee would be to come up with the questions we need answered, which is, you're saying that in a slightly different way. And I think that, I think we both stated, I'm not ready to make a recommendation. I don't think there's anything here that we don't have anything to work with to make a recommendation from.
I would agree.
So,
do we have any interested commissioners that have a desire to serve on a committee such as that?
we have an interested citizen who I think would like to participate.
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
Mr.
I have a point of order I would like to make.
Yes, please.
Bill Miley, It's my understanding that the school district is about ready to make a decision on what they're going to build. And in 30 days, if you postpone this, you may not have an opportunity to put any thoughtful commentary to the school district because they've already decided. So I think the issue I would like you to consider, and possibly you might ask the city manager, if there's a time element here that once it occurs, we are dead in the water from influencing them. I think they're going to make a decision in the next 3 weeks. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. You read my mind. Yes.
So I can confirm that initially we were asked to make for the city to provide input on or to provide a response regarding the request to program by, I believe it was end of May. And so just to give an idea of the time frame, I think the discussion at the school district meeting was May 11th, and then we were asked to, following that meeting, to provide our proposal by May 31st, I believe. And so we replied and, talked about our process, how these typically go through the Parks and Rec Commission with a recommendation to the city council, and that takes time and information. And so I did respond that we wouldn't be able to meet the May 31st deadline. I said that we would try to work through it in June. I will say, to Mr. Biley's point, I sense that they are ready to make a decision, but I also would say, for the purposes of our discussion, I know we shouldn't make a decision without being comfortable with it and having the information. So it is a challenge. I think what I would do is report back to the school district. If the commission feels they need more time, I would report that back. And if the school board makes a decision at that time, that would be their call. But I'd be happy to report that back, or whatever other decision is made by the Parks and Rec Commission today. So, but I guess to Mr. Marley's point, it is unclear at this point if the school district will move forward before the next meeting. So.
It just seems incredibly unfair to the community. A lack of planning on their part isn't an emergency on the commission's part. And as a citizen, not speaking as the chair, but as a citizen, that rush to decision, it seems very unfair to the members of this community. And in addition to the ones that are paying on the parcel tax. So that is disappointing to hear that we've been given these time constraints. I don't think this commission can make a decision. Yes, Mr. Wyrick? Yes, I do. Please step forward.
That's precisely why I really would be grateful if two commissioners would be willing to serve in an ad hoc capacity to frame the questions, to frame the information, to frame the overall public interest, and perhaps work with Mr. Hartman's group to think through this. So I would be grateful if the commission, a couple of commissioners would be willing to do that.
I was waiting for some hands to say, I want to do that. Absolutely. Sign me up for that.
I think that for me, though, which is fine, but I think the first question is we do need more time. This is clearly not enough time to make any recommendation, nor do we have enough information. And as a commission, I hope we would feel comfortable to share that with the city manager now, to send back to the school district, so we have a clear message that we don't have enough time or information to provide any recommendations to council at this time. Well, I think we start there.
I think we can form an ad hoc committee tonight if we have interested commissioners, but I would agree,
before
yes.
we even get to that.
Yes, I agree. We cannot do it. We can't meet their deadline. That's not going to work even on an accelerated ad hoc research basis. That's not going to work for.
I don't think it's fair to the community, because it's not how this commission's ever worked. It's not how I want this commission to work. I think we work efficiently as we can, and we include as many people where we can, but that the process shouldn't be driven.
Mm-hmm.
The process should be a good process. And I don't think that's possible in the time frame. Yeah. So Orion's got his hand up.
Yeah, when you're done.
Go ahead. I can't see your yellow hand. It's really hard, so jump in.
Yeah. Oh, I agree on principle with that this is too rushed and not appropriate. But I think we can communicate that we are interested in, looking into this, asking and answering questions and working with the community, possibly even saying that, our initial starting point is an aquatic center, but we need a lot more information before we could, say what makes the most sense from our perspective. But I think at least communicating that would be helpful.
I just feel like it's an after. I think the partnership seems
for?
like an afterthought. Yes,
Okay.
that is what I'm looking for. So I have a show of one. Do we have another commissioner who's interested in taking on this accelerated ad hoc participation?
Were you saying that, Ryan? Is that what you were saying?
Oh, I see Ryan's hand is up. I see the yellow hand. I see it now.
Take your yellow hand down, Ryan.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah. I'm unfortunately overcommitted
Okay.
with pickleball and other things.
Okay. Commissioner Walker, this might be an opportunity for you to hit the ground running, I think is the term that they use in recreation. Do you have any interest in that?
I'll be honest, I don't. I just don't know. Like, I kind of would like to learn more about it, like the information. It just seems like a lot thrown in, and then having the ad hoc and trying to figure out what that means, and because I have no frame of reference of the time commitment and things like that. Maybe if I just have more information, I would be more willing to. It's just that I just don't.
I understand. Well, what it means is if we don't have two commissioners to volunteer for an ad hoc, it means that the commission as a whole does the work together. It is a bit more time consuming because we do have to advertise the meetings as public meetings when we have a quorum of the commission. But it certainly also puts 5 different points of view on the issue, and it's certainly something that the commission as a whole can do, but it definitely slows the process down.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you be willing to initially get it started and help with the organization, knowing that you would step off? Would you?
What does that sound?
I don't know. Somebody's looking. Would you consider that? Because the initial part is organizing and setting up the questions and getting the research done. Would you be comfortable starting off with me and then seeing if we can bring someone else along who's interested as we develop the process?
I think that would be great. It just can't be another commissioner at the same time because then it creates that quorum
I
issue.
absolutely understand. You could step back and we could bring it back to commission to look for another committee member.
So I'm not going to chair the ad hoc.
You do not have to
You will chair the ad hoc?
Yes.
Okay. I have to be honest, and I hope someone from OUSD is listening. I feel that it's put the city and the commission in a really frustrating situation, and it's just not the best way to move forward. And I want that to be clear. The commission will do its great work, but there has to be some consideration for the citizens. It's the citizens are the ones who are providing the children for the district, and there needs to be collaboration, and I think that they're getting ahead of themselves, and
But we could move forward.
will agree to. I will agree.
Okay,
So
thank you, and we'll move forward with
we
the
better
other
make a
two.
motion pretty fast, though.
We'll look for.
because-
This is an opportunity, and we'll look at it that way and see where we go. I would like to make a motion that we form an ad hoc committee to look at the community pool issue. Is that clear enough for everybody? Is that?
Well, we're going to call it a community pool. I think we should probably identify specifically with the Ojai Unified School District.
Pool project?
Pool
Well, actually-
proposal is probably a better term because that is one of the
Is it strictly
issues.
just that, though? We're looking at the idea.
At all?
Well, no, I guess, we're looking at the bigger picture of a community pool and its
Yes.
feasibility in response to, okay.
Well, I don't know
go
that
ahead.
the motion needs to have all encompassing. I
We
mean,
just
the
have
motion is that we want to form an ad hoc committee to work on an accelerated basis to work with the Ojai Unified School District regarding
community
pool
pool.
use.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
I'll
point of-
second
Wait, I have
point
a
of order.
I have a motion on the floor, so let me just finish this. It either needs to die for lack of second, or we can have further discussion, but Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion. We can take public discussion. That's fine. Mr. Miley, go ahead.
Bill Miley. My understanding is that at times the commission can appoint a citizen who's not involved with the commission on an ad hoc committee.
Yes.
And if so, I would like to volunteer.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Miley. Okay, can you call the roll?
Sure.
Unless we have any more hands or further discussion? Okay, can you call the roll?
Absolutely. So we'll begin with Vice Chair Ittner,
Yes.
Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Firestone,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and back to our agenda. I believe we have one more. One moment.
Two more.
Two more. Okay, let me get back to my agenda here. I took a lot of notes tonight. Okay, we are on item D. We discussed this at last meeting, the internship program. Recommendation is that the commission receive an update on the city's volunteer program and internship program and determine whether to make recommendations to city council to modify the internship program. And there was quite a bit of information in the packet. Luis, would you like to just give us a summary of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it very brief. So in summary of the report, the city has two different volunteer-based programs that community members can serve the community in a variety of capacities. The first is just that volunteer program. Community members can volunteer to serve in various capacities as they become available, such as outdoor park cleanup events, volunteering at the city's community demonstration garden, Middle Sewer Canyon Creek Restoration Project, as well as volunteering at the Recreation Department. While volunteering at the Recreation Department, participants can assist with programs and camps. Some of the volunteer opportunities, such as those available through the Recreation Department, do require candidates to successfully pass a background check, have their fingerprints taken, as they will be working with children and driving city vehicles. Volunteers are accepted accepted based off of their expertise, knowledge, and the project or the project's needs. Currently, the volunteer program is available for all community members, including those including high school age students. Those that may be interested can submit an application to the Recreation Department or the department that's going to be hosting the volunteer opportunity. Now, if memory serves me right, Commissioner Ruff indicated that some of her fellow peers expressed interest in such a program. And if that is the case, we absolutely welcome them to contact us with our summer months coming upon us. We are getting quite busy. And we can definitely go ahead and use some volunteers there. The second program is an academic-based internship program, which is designed for college students. It is an unpaid, unbenefited program that provides candidates a meaningful and educational work experience. In return, the city does benefit from the students' capabilities as well, capabilities to assist with special projects and events. There are several requirements that candidates must meet to go ahead and participate in that program. But overall, the goal of that program is to provide students a meaningful opportunity to gain hands-on experience while enhancing their knowledge and expanding upon their education to further their career opportunities. Those that are interested in that particular program can pick up an application at City Hall or by visiting the city's website under the internship tab. As noted, this particular program is designed for college students. However, if the commission wishes to make a recommendation that the program be modified to allow high school students to participate, the commission could consider making a recommendation for city council's consideration. And if that is the case, staff will work to identify any additional requirements that may be needed for high school students to participate, such as work permits, things of that nature. The ultimate goal is that the city, be compliant with the Department of Labor regulations as well as the California Department of Education requirements. And with that, that provides a summary of both programs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think as we discussed, I think Commissioner Ruff even said in our last meeting that there would be some interest in having a high school program. I think a lot of the volunteer work that they do as youth is really to gear them up for their resume for college, right? It's, I think depriving our youth of that opportunity is unfortunate, and I would support some additional edits to this document.
You're speaking to the internship program, not the volunteer program.
Well, I'm unclear on why we wouldn't call, if we were going to use it for our students, I think, and if you were to say, I'm a volunteer for the city Parks and Rec, or I had an internship, I think it would be much more attractive if you said internship.
Yeah, so you're speaking to that program.
I'm speaking to the program, but I think it should have a different name. I think that it would be, or maybe a slash.
Sure, we can call it something along the lines
Right.
like leaders in training.
More it's just more enticing to have that's why they do it. It's, I'm not sure at that point in their life that they do it to be good citizens. I think they do it because they reap that benefit of having that reference. So I think that it would be a good idea, and I would support that.
Do you have Commissioner Wilson?
So if I understand, really what we're talking about is the fundamental differences in the volunteer program. People can volunteer at their discretion. High school students can volunteer at their discretion for, a couple of hours of work. The internship program is much more formal. It has an 8 to 10 hour a week requirement, which is usually connected to some kind of academic credit or something along those lines. It is just an internship. That term all by itself is definitely more prestigious than a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it seems to me I think we can promote the volunteer program, but I think what the commission showed interest in is expanding the internship program to include like maybe juniors and seniors, something along those lines. And it's a more formal program. They would have it would be a more extended program. It would be they would be assigned to a particular job of some sort. And, you would obviously have to make sure it complies with all the federal and state labor laws. But is that summary correct, Luis? We're really talking about taking something that's now tied to an academic situation and expanding it to high school. So there probably would need to be some coordination with the high schools in the area. Yes?
That is correct, yes.
Yes. And I have two hands up. So Commissioner Ruff?
I just kind of a question. We do have like a week left of school, but I can ask our college and career counselor to put this in like a message if that's like useful. I don't know.
I think we'll probably, but based on timeline, it would be something that would be for next year. But I think what would be really helpful is to connect Luis and the college, if the commission is going in this direction that I sense that we're headed, to make sure that there is, and when we have the commission's input from her perspective. But I think that would not be a bad thing, and then maybe bring it back with what they discuss. And I think that you're right, they are two different, but that I think the same principles can be used as far as qualifications. I think they should both be lowered. I think if you have a volunteer that's a senior in high school and they want to come and volunteer for movie night,
Mm-hmm.
I think you should have something in place for that.
Yeah, and that's at this very moment, they can go ahead and do that. They can
Okay.
go ahead and do that through the volunteer program.
Okay.
Now, if it's an internship,
Okay.
go ahead.
Commissioner Firestone, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like we don't need to do anything about the volunteer program. It's already open to everyone. The internship program sounds great from the write-up that was provided, and extending it to high schoolers makes a ton of sense. I just want to emphasize that it's mutually beneficial. The interns receive formal training of some sort, as is described in the write-up, and they provide some service to the department community.
So the commission's recommendation would then just be based upon having staff work with, do we need to make a recommendation to council, or can this be done through staff?
I think we start with staff and investigate. Mm-hmm. That would be my feeling. And then the other part, from just as a personal comment, internships are always competitive. They're competitive in college. They're competitive not in college. And there's a reason for that. You're looking for candidates who are serious and want to come and do the work of an internship and get the, you know, the benefit of it. So I do think there's a differentiation for me in my mind very clearly between volunteer opportunities and internships. The commitment level on a volunteer can
Just
be
be
equal
one
to an
day.
internship, but it could also be an afternoon. And
Okay.
so I want to keep a clear line between the two, because we have both, and both are excellent, but they're going to serve different needs, both for the city and for the participants. Just that's my 2 cents on the importance of the two. But I think we're at a staff. I think that it makes sense to me exactly what you said. Have staff just investigate and talk to the career counselor.
Yep.
And see.
And then do we need to bring it back to the commission once the staff has investigated, and then we can make a recommendation once we have all the facts from staff? Okay.
It seems like it to me, because
So
then we'll
we'll-
have the information that we need to know about if there's some roadblocks.
So Louise, can you work on if Commissioner Ruff can get you some connections, or perhaps you have them already, and then can we agendize that for our next commission meeting? And I actually think I have a speaking card on this before we close. Let me see. 7E, is that what we're on here?
No, that's the next one.
Hmm.
You have one more.
Thank you. Good God, I need 2 copies of the agendas because it's buried in the packet here. Okay, thank you. So Luis, you can get with staff and OUSD, and then we can re-agendize it
Yep,
for next month
for
with
next
some
month.
edits. Okay,
Sure
great.
thing.
Any other input or discussion? Okay. And moving on to our last presentation, the Skatepark Structure. Recommend that the commission receive an update on the Skatepark Structure.
Sure. And for this, I'll go ahead and provide just a brief history of how this request came to be and where we're at, then turn it over to the commission for any questions. So in 2021, the Parks and Recreation Commission received a comment from a community member requesting that a shade structure be installed for park goers, as summer months are often hot in Ojai. In efforts to accommodate the request, the commission asked that staff look into the viability of installing a structure. Staff worked with Commissioner Firestone to conduct thorough research to maximize shade for park goers throughout the course of the year. It's April 7th, 2022 meeting, the commission approved the design of the structure, and following that meeting, staff sent the item to council for final approval, and in efforts to be good partners, submitted a request to the school district for the structure to be installed. At the May 10th city council meeting, council approved the structure. At the May 11th, 2022 school district meeting, the school board conditionally approved the structure. It was conditionally approved based on the city raising a wall next to the skate park and modifying the existing MOU between the city and the district to include language that the city would be responsible for ongoing maintenance and cleaning of the structure. Unfortunately, we didn't expect this hurdle here. I do have a meeting with the city manager next week to determine what next steps we can go and take. But that's where we are at this point. As mentioned, we just didn't anticipate for that hurdle there.
Can you clarify for the public who's not been part of this, that the wall that's there, what is the deficiencies in the view of the Unified School District? How long has it been there?
How long has it been there? I can't speak to that effect. It's been there as long as I can remember. I grew up here in Ojai, 34 years. The deficiencies that they indicated is that the wall is too short, and so they'd like to go ahead and raise it a couple of feet.
I see.
And
too short for what? What's the purpose of the wall?
So the wall, which is next to the park and ride and the skate park, actually goes into the school district yard. They have indicated that some park goers are going over the fence, and so they'd like to go ahead and raise that fence.
It's a perimeter security fence.
Mm-hmm.
And when was the request made from the school district for this wall?
If I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me right, it came the Friday before their meeting. And I didn't meet with them up until the day of the meeting. It was the first opportunity we had to go ahead and meet. We went on site. They indicated, because when the request came through, it was just, there's a small wall that we need to be raised. And I didn't quite understand. So I met with them on site and they said, hey, I need to know a little bit more information. When I was there, I learned that it was a 40-foot fence that needed to be, 40-foot long fence that needed to be raised.
So it's the entirety of the fence, not the section just
That
behind
is
the
correct.
restroom? They want the entire fence raised?
That is correct.
Do you have an estimated cost on the fence?
No, nothing official. And speaking with their maintenance personnel, it was indicated that they had received some estimates. I can't remember those exact figures, but it was something along the lines of about $10,000.
Okay, so they've investigated the project, but we didn't find out about it till that Friday before our
That is
item.
correct.
And now they've made this project contingent upon completion of the fence?
That is correct.
So we don't have a timeframe, we don't even know what we're getting into for the shade structure. So the shade structure is currently not, we can't build on schedule because we don't have approval from them, unless the 40-foot fence is raised.
Because the poles that support the north side of that sail go in, we anticipated being able to secure those on the school district property, is that correct?
That is correct.
About how
Yeah.
far into the property, do you know?
Approximately about 4 feet.
Is there a way to do the project without impinging upon, or is it?
Well, the two, so the shade sail and the wall they're completely different. It's installing the shade sail it's completely
Whether it's on their
separate.
property or not on their property, we can't build this project without their approval. Is that where we're at?
That is what has been relayed. It has been
Wait, I'm sorry, I
conditionally-
didn't understand what you're saying. So,
I was asking if the location is a portion of why the wall issue is coming up, or our project, whether it's completely in the park or out of in the park, is still not okay to build.
Why
We
would
have
we
to
need
get
their
approval
permission
from
to-
them as part of our lease to build the project?
who owns that property that the?
We have a long-term lease on the school district property.
Oh, I see,
So
for the skate
is it-
park.
Is this part of our lease that we have to do this, to go to them to get approval?
I think that we may have a couple of speakers in the audience that could assist the commission. Either one of you, please step up. This is torture.
Sorry.
We've been reviewing the lease since all this came out. It doesn't appear to be a requirement that we get prior approval. I think Luis, rightly, I think just reached out as a courtesy, and I think we were surprised that we didn't get the response we were expecting. So we do have a meeting scheduled next week, as Luis said, to kind of review our options and figure out what we're going to do next. We just weren't expecting that condition, so we didn't have a plan for it. So,
And and perhaps we can table this item as well for an update next week. But can I think it's just 2 poles that support that north side, correct?
It would be 3.
Three poles, and can they be constructed on the south side of that? Does that interfere? I know our shade survey was done. Does that
Right.
4 feet interfere with?
Right, and I apologize for clarity. On the north side, it is just the 2 poles. There's 3 poles in total, which
Right.
would support the structure.
Okay.
It can be installed, but coming into the park would go ahead and create an obstacle for park goers, and that's the reason why it was installed behind or in the school property.
Okay.
Question, the whole skate park belongs to the school district, right?
The property itself belongs to the school district, and the city has a long-term lease to operate the skate park on it.
So as they're acting as a landlord where the city wants to make an improvement, but the landlord is only willing to approve the improvement if this other improvement, the wall being raised, is done, right?
That's correct.
Is that the situation?
Yes, that's how I understand it.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter where the poles go. It's the fact that we want to put up a shade structure for the skate park, and they want this wall raised because they feel like people in the skate park are coming onto school property.
It sounds like we'll have more clarity after meetings, though, as to whether it is an actual requirement of our lease to do that on our property. At this time, I'm not clear that it's I don't think we know yet. We need clarity on whether we're required to do this on our property, and then we need some clarification of, will our project be the project we want if we make the changes to make sure it's on our property? And I don't think we have those answers at this time.
Yes. Councilman Ryrick?
Yeah, I want to speak to this because Karen in particular, I do leases all the time, and you have to look at the terms of the lease. If you are a long-term leaseholder, you're allowed your expectation of quiet enjoyment for your leasehold. And when you look at when I heard about this, I immediately pulled up the actual lease, and the lease does not mention prior approval for improvements on the leasehold property. And now I'm not talking about across the boundary line on the school property, but and this is what I believe I stimulated a city attorney review by asking this question, because I looked very, very carefully through the terms of the lease, and it specifically talks about the city being able to make improvements to the leasehold aspect as long as the city did it at its expense and assumed all the liability and the maintenance and care of those improvements. So there is another clause that says if there is a casualty loss or a fire, like everything's destroyed, and you modify, you're supposed to get prior approval for a modification of replacing a casualty loss. But in the normal course of events, the word improvements is definitely in there for the city's option. And so I asked the city attorney to look at this because nobody could really understand the connection between the fence and the shade structure, why the shade structure triggered this. So there is an open question there, and you can't simply assume that just the landlord require prior approval of a landlord for improvements. That depends on the actual language of the lease, and that's what we're looking at. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I was just trying to get clarity here, but that's absolutely clarifies. Thank you.
So I think your idea to table it is good, and we have 2 questions we want answered before then so that we can discuss it more.
Okay, thank you. Louise, can you include that on the next agenda, please?
Sure
with
thing.
the updated information?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll move on to informational items.
Oh, but
I'd almost like to table
sorry.
that. It's getting late. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. It's so
I'm-
hard with you guys on Zoom. I can't wait for you guys
Yeah,
to get back in
I
person.
sorry, I spoke up late here. But just on that topic, I don't really know what there is for us to do there. I mean, we made our recommendation about the design. I think the only thing would be if somehow this is easier, if the design is entirely, within the footprint of the skate park. If we need to review a modified design, it seems like that's about all we could do. I mean, paying for a fence or not doesn't seem to involve us. No.
Sorry, those were the 2 questions I wanted to hear answers to. Sorry, I didn't clarify. It was whether we would need to modify the design and what the stipulations of the lease are, the 2 things I think that would be good for us to hear about next meeting. Does that make sense?
Well, and just to get, the commission worked really hard. I mean, I have to say personally, it was really rewarding to get if I recall, it was a child that made the suggestion, and to have this process go from start to finish with a really great, what we perceive to be a great outcome, and in partnership. That skate park, for anybody who goes down there, it's used every single day, and I would have to guess that quite a bit of them are OUSD students, and so I think to keep it on the agenda, to keep the commission just informed, since we have been working on this project for an entire year.
Well, and the sad part is we were trying to get it in before summer. We were
Yeah.
trying to make sure there
It
was
is definitely
shade
disappointing.
for skateboarders during summer. That was the intent of moving forward as quickly as we could.
I mean, it sounds like the fence is deficient and it needs to be addressed, but whether or not that is the city's problem, it remains to be unanswered. If the fence has been there for a considerable amount of time, it seems more like a tit for tat to me. So I hope that the city manager or council is able to work with OUSD collaboratively on a resolution. We were on informational items. I'm sorry. Can we move back to that?
Yep. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Montgomery.
Yes, yes, I have item 8, the recreation report or the department update, beginning with, and Luis, while I'm talking, could you please prepare the slide? We have some fun for you. The open house, Our yearly open house took place this past Saturday, May 21st from 11 to 2. We saw a great turnout of community members and commissioners, and attendees took part in various activities, demonstrations from our rec programs and instructors, informational booths, and more. And in my opinion, the park was alive with activity highlighting our facilities and offerings.
Oh, that's so great.
And as much as we run our department and commission professionally, we are required at times to have fun with the public in the rec world. And so here's what happened. So there's some families enjoying demonstrations. There's our Ojai drummers, which is our newest program I will tell you about shortly. Sheriff's Department was there interacting with the public. Coming up next are some of our contract instructors on file. This is our science instructor, Tim Baker. Surfing with Thomas. And with Fire Stick Pottery Studios, that's Robin. Families having fun, participating in our programs and AYSO 5-a-side. There's our informational booth. Some staff and volunteers who you may know, and commissioners having fun with our trolley staff. So we'll see you next year. We wanted to show you the people in action, which is
really
why
great.
we do it. Similar to the person asking about the shade, a skater asking about it, you know.
Yeah.
We do it for the people.
Yeah, and we would like to go ahead and give a shout out to Steve Adams, who provided these photos.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Okay, moving on. Staff members Vicki Hollingsworth and myself, we joined the 45th Annual Art in the Park event, and we did this to promote our department and commission by providing an informational booth again. So this would be to highlight summer programming, part-time hiring, scholarships, facility usage, and the commission at a really popular event at Libby Park. Our movie nights are just continuing to be completely full. So we just want to highlight that again because our community is showing up to the Boyd Center. And just to remind everyone, they are the last Friday of each month.
What's the next movie?
Next one, Alice in Wonderland cartoon version.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's right. Program highlight is our brand new offering for adults is pretty cool. It's Ojai Odaiko Japanese Drum Workshop, and this provides the art of taiko drumming in a group class at the Boyd Center multipurpose room. So this is fun for us. It's a new adult class for creative expression, and it already has positive enrollment to begin on a Saturday soon in its first run. The next highlight is our summer programming as a whole. I wanted to tell the commission that our specialty summer camps are the highlight. We have 12 types of camps, and between those 12, there are 54 different options of weeks that parents can choose from.
Great.
So that's a pretty cool highlight for us. The first week of summer camp is always exciting. Our first week of camp begins Monday, June 13th. We'll kick off summer that way. And as we do this, we continue to offer regular recreational programming. For example, 1 day per week classes for adults and youth. And our future goals right now are to maintain our focus on the busy summer programming season and to maintain the positive use of the programs and facilities as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, that's
Okay,
great.
can I ask one question?
Yes.
Really quickly. Is there any potential for possibly expanding movie nights if they're going so well?
Yeah, we do intend on
Okay,
scheduling
sorry,
them out.
I mean, if you're having a really good turnout, maybe every other.
So the month of August is the end of our summer season, goes
Okay.
May through August. So that's what we have in print, and we intend on
Yeah,
going forward.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, it's been very
Like doing it
popular.
like twice a month?
Yeah,
type
like an
of-
every
is that
other week kind of
Is
thing?
it a
Oh,
profit?
I understand better.
Is
Sorry.
it a profit maker for staff, or is it
It
more
is.
of a service?
No, it has been. It definitely has been. Each movie night, we've had over 40 kids there.
great,
So,
great. And
you know, one of the things that we are looking to go ahead and do because it's so popular, we want to make sure that we are offering a great program where everybody's safe. So I think that 40 is going to be our capacity. So we're going to be encouraging everybody to go ahead and pre-register. You know, I would hate to ever turn anybody away, but we could definitely go ahead and explore opening it up to twice a month.
I think it's a great opportunity to, you know, I don't think that, maybe I wasn't even on the commission yet, but my kids really enjoyed going. And I think as you know, you get more comfortable going to the rec department, and the next thing you know, she was signing up for gymnastics. And so it's kind of one of those, you know, you maybe aren't going to sign up for a program just because you're not totally comfortable with or even know about. And so I think it attracts probably a little bit younger crowd too, right? The five,
Oh my
6,
gosh,
7,
yeah,
right?
so
They
much-
really
yeah,
like
it's
that.
so much fun.
I still see my kids bringing their blanket and like sitting on the, at the time we had those extra gymnasium mats, and they really, really liked it. And they felt really, like, oh, we get to, you know, mom's not
You're right. Those
helicoptering over me, and I get to be left here.
The group drop-off event you're right, it's a great feeder to our other programs.
I
And you know,
like it.
then the more parents do the movie nights, the more we might need to be creative and provide another type of group drop-off. So it works on all levels.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I really do like that. So thank you for
Wonderful
that.
program. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
That was an aside.
And thank you for that report.
One request there, if it does turn out that it remains popular and kind of a net money maker, is to consider lowering the cost so it's more accessible.
What is the cost now?
It's $15 per child, which breaks down to $5 an hour.
Okay.
But that's more, when did that
When did that
raise?
go up? I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It
didn't
went up
used
from
to be.
12, we changed it from 12 to 5. I'm sorry, 15.
Oh, I don't remember being that much.
Well,
And that
Way
included
it is $15
previously.
for 3 hours of childcare.
but it used to include pizza, right?
Right.
I mean, so
Right.
right, and I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I am always a proponent of
Yeah, I
more
mean-
people, more people having the
Right.
opportunity.
If you look at this as the cost of childcare, yeah, it's a great deal. But it's also, if you've got a couple kids or a few kids, it might not be a question of where's the lowest cost childcare, but just, can I afford to have my kids do this or do this regularly or not?
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is always here, I mean, for me, it's an underlying, we aren't about cost recovery fully. We are a funded, tax-funded service, and our service we want to provide to the widest range of people we possibly can, and cost is always a prohibitive factor. So I think, it isn't always about break even, it's also about just giving everyone the opportunity. So we just always have to keep, it's hard sometimes because you're being asked to run it like a business a lot of times, which is, I mean,
Yeah, like an
we're,
enterprise
we're,
fund.
we're tax, the taxes support this. There's, so.
Okay. Thank you, Weston. Do we have a city council liaison report? I have Mayor Sticks down for participation.
Yes. So on her behalf, she apologized. She couldn't make it this evening. She had a schedule conflict, but she did want to go ahead and express her gratitude to the commission for its work, including that was done at the joint meeting. Again, just wanted to go ahead and say thank you to everybody.
Thank you. And we've had a lot of discussion tonight. Do we have any additional commissioner reports or comments? Okay, I'm going to quickly move through then to our future agenda items. I know we've established a couple throughout the meeting. Any other commissioners have something to contribute for the future agenda items? I think we'll have
Will
a
you just
full.
go over what you've got?
So I have the, Louise, can you
Yeah.
give it to her?
Yeah, so we have the Aquatics program. We have an update on the shade structure. And what's listed here on the agenda is this year's Ojai Park playground. Because we have so many projects that are going to be coming up, part of the master plan, I think that this is one that that the commission, definitely should discuss at its next meeting, possibly forming an ad hoc committee to talk about design concepts, things of that nature.
Playgrounds.
And then pickleball will remain kind of a standing item just for updates as any movement. Okay.
And I think but Public Works says that for the multi-sport courts will keep coming back to,
Yep.
but not as a
Yep.
discussion item. Okay,
Yes, as a Public Works update,
perfect.
correct?
Yep.
Yes, okay. Okay, any other commissioner input on future agenda items? Okay. Well, with that, I will then adjourn at 8:34.